So if you come up to the dado blade and it's set up for somebody else's use, which it probably will be, you may need to do some changing. You're definitely going to need to change the fence, and you're going to need to check the blade height. But right now this blade is not set up for our needs. We want this blade to be 3/4 of an inch wide, and right now it's set up for 1 inch wide, or sorry, 1/4 inch wide. So now we need to change the blade, and in order to do that, we're going to pull out this little thumb indicator, this finger indicator here, and pull that up, and then the throat plate will come out. Then inside the machine, we're going to need to open this little door. Once that door is open, we have a little bit more access to the nut and to the arbor, so we can get that changed. Anytime you're changing the blade or touching the knives on a machine, you need to have the machine power disconnected from the power source. So we're going to need to get the wrenches and the dado blade sets out to change this to a bigger size. And we're going to do that over here on the left side of the table. Typically our wrenches hang right up underneath here, and they would hang for your convenience. And then usually there's a little black box sitting here. This is our dado blade or our dado head, and we're going to use this to change the blade out. So as we open up our box, okay, typically in here is some instructions to set this to the right thickness, and it gives you the size of blades that you want or need for each cutter or chipper, and the setup you would need for each size. Typically when we're using this, we put these blades back so that we can find the set that we took off last. So as I unstack these, and you'll notice that each one is a different way so that the teeth aren't touching, I can unstack these and see which teeth go on, and you can see there's some spacers right there that tell me that these are the blades that I typically use for our 3/4 dados and rabbits. So we're going to close this box up, we're going to set these up and verify that this is the right size, and then we'll go from there. When I set the blades down, I want to make sure I'm not setting them on the steel tabletop. We don't want the carbide teeth touching the metal top. And so I've set them on a piece of wood for now so that those teeth cannot get damaged from scratching against the metal. And then we can put the dado blade back underneath the saw. All right, we're looking down into the saw. I've already opened the little door down here, so that's out of the way. We're going to take one of our wrenches here, and we're going to put that open end on the arbor, which is on this side of the blade, and I'm going to turn the blade until that locks in. And again, the power needs to be disconnected when touching the blades or knives. We're going to take our other wrench, and this time we're going to put the closed end or box end on the nut, and I'm going to get that lined up, and then go ahead and loosen them. I'm going to take this nut off now that it's loose by hand, and I'm going to make sure I don't drop it down into the dust system or down into the bottom of the saw. Oftentimes there's sawdust in the bottom of the saw and it becomes difficult to find, or we have to dig our hand through the dust system to find the nut. So I'm going to I like to reach around like this and use my hand, and I should be easy to do with no wrenches on there, and then my hand's underneath, so if I drop it, then hopefully it lands into my hand and not down into the dust system. So I'm going to get the nut out of there, and now I'm going to take off the blade. Now I just need to take off one of these, and then the chipper blades are going to go on in between these two silver ones. So I'm going to take off the outside blade and set that on my pieces of wood so they're not hitting the metal table. And now I'm going to start putting on the chippers, and these teeth, as I look at it like this, on the top side towards me is where that sharp edge should be, or the lead edge of the blade. So I'm going to put those on. As I put them on, I want to stagger the teeth so that the teeth are in between each other, like this right here. I don't want to have it so my teeth, the carbide teeth, are touching each other, because that is going to cause the teeth to compress against each other and possibly crack or shatter. And so I want to set them in between each other so my teeth are all offset. Then we're going to go ahead and put the next one on, making sure that that blade sharp lead edge is on the top facing me here, and I put that on, and I'm going to move that one a little bit different. So that chipper is now, teeth are down there where the second one was way up here. So we're kind of offsetting them. Put the third one in here. So that's the last of our chippers. Now our outside blade goes back on, and we're gonna just slide that in there, try not to hit the teeth on anything. And now all of my teeth should be staggered in between each other. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. I'm gonna start getting my nut put back on here, and I'm gonna reach down like I did before, so if I drop it, it lands in my hand. And then I'm gonna start just finger tight getting that on. It should go on nice and easy if it's going on straight. And now we're gonna take a closer look at those blades and see what we're talking about there. All right, if we take a closer look at these teeth, what we mean by offsetting them is we want them to be so that like this tooth here is not touching this tooth here, that they're in between each other, that they're not gonna crush against each other as we put them on. So by staggering them, the pad, which is usually wider than the body, that pad or tooth blade there is not going to hit the next one next to it because they're offset from each other. They're staggered. All right, we got our nut put back on. Now we're gonna take our wrenches and get them back on there and tighten this blade up. It doesn't need to be super tight, but it does need to be snug so it doesn't come loose. Now, when you're tightening this, some of these teeth may slide around a little bit, and that's fine if they slide right up next to one another, as long as the pad or the tooth is not touching the next tooth over, okay? If it's just in front or behind, that's okay, but as long as they're not sitting side by side crushed against each other. When we're done, we're gonna take our wrenches out and put them back underneath the saw. And we're gonna close this little door here for dust management. And we're gonna put the throat plate back in the machine. So this is our throat plate that was in there. Now this has a 0 clearance for a 1/4 inch blade. So this throat plate's not gonna work for our application today. We're gonna need to find the one that has the bigger cutout for the 3/4 clearance on our dados and rabbits. We're gonna install this with this tip into the table. So that's gonna go into the machine first and then lift up on this handle, and it should sit nice and flush around there, and then we can lock it down into place with that metal rod. This other throat plate can get set aside, give it to your instructor so they can put it away for the time being.